Welcome to the show. I am your host, Bryan Lee Whatley. Our story begins tonight with our special guest, Jennifer Fallaw, speaking on her book, The Wishflower Field, Marie's Triumph. Jennifer was born and raised in Southern California. At a very young age, Jennifer's eldest daughters suffered from night terrors, frightening dreams that did not cease after wakening. Jennifer, in hopes of eliminating those horrible dreams, created a happy visualization for her girls before they went to sleep. Now, the girls loved dandelions and called them wishflowers. So she created a beautiful, safe field of wishflowers and would ask the girls to go there in their minds. To Jennifer's pleasant surprise, the night terrors stopped and did not return. And over time, the girls revealed that they were going to the wishflower field in their dreams and having wonderful adventures. So join us tonight as we discuss these amazing places and encourage you to think about what you pull away from this inspiring book called The Wishflower Field, Marie's Triumph. And our musical guest tonight is Tallulah Rendall with her beautiful song, Wake Up. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome, Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm good, Brian. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here to talk to us tonight and talk to all of our listeners about your book, because when I read it, it moved me in so many different ways. I was happy, I was sad, I had all kinds of emotions going on about it. It was just really inspiring. And with the book and yourself, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and so our readers kind of get to know you?
Well, I'm a mother. I have 2 children and currently residing in North Idaho. I am widowed for 4 years now, and the book basically started a long time ago, probably about, 6 years ago, in '05, when my kids were real small. The Wishflower Field originally was a happy visualization that I created for my children because they were suffering from night terrors. And, especially my oldest daughter, she would wake up and she'd be screaming and carrying on and crying. And, the more that I would console her, the worse it would get. And I took her to the doctor, and he said, no, these are night terrors. All you can do is lull them back to sleep. And that just wasn't enough for me. And so I figured, well, there's got to be a way that we can hit these night terrors off the pass and do something ahead of time to, eliminate them altogether, rather than trying to deal with them as they come. So I just, as they laid down to sleep at night, I put them to sleep both in the same bed because they wanted that. So I had laid them both down, and they loved wishflower. They loved dandelions. And I can't remember if it was the kids or my husband who gave them the name Wishflowers. But they just loved them. I mean, they would just love to make wishes. And so I said, well, I just created this place called the Wishflower Field. And it was a beautiful, happy, safe place. And I tell them to close their eyes and visualize this place where the giant dandelions. And every wish you make comes true instantly. And it's a safe place, and there's angels there, and nothing can harm you there. And so I'd lay them down, and I'd ask them to just visualize this place and tell me what they'd wish for, tell me what they see. And we did this night after night after night. And to my surprise, it worked. I'm wishful.
That's when that happens.
And then after a while, they started telling me about dreams that they'd have and how they went to the Wishflower Field and they wished for this and they saw so-and-so there and they had this wonderful time. And it kind of stuck with me, and I said, this is, someday I'm going to have to pass this on to somebody else and tell them because, it worked. So, time went on and, life took center stage. We ended up moving. We were living in Southern California where I grew up, and we ended up moving up here, my husband and my 2 children, because the rest of my family had moved up here earlier. And we lived here for about 8 months, and my husband was on his way home from work, and he was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're okay now. But after that, I figured one day, well, I have a choice to make here. I can either fall apart or I can keep going because those kids are going to learn from every single thing that I do from this day on. And that this is how they're going to learn to handle major things that happen in life. And so, kind of went on autopilot for a while. And then the shock and the thought that I had for a while was, this doesn't happen to me. This happens to people on the news. This doesn't happen, not like I'm better than anyone, but that's the kind of thoughts that you think, and so I thought that for a while, and then one day I thought, you know what? If that is true, if it is true that things like that can happen to me and can happen to everyone else, bad things can happen, then the opposite can also be true. And I can do something wonderful. I can do something great. And so I decided, well, maybe I'll write this book then. And maybe this can happen then. And so, you go back and forth in your mind like, oh, should I do this? Should I get a real job? Things like that. What am I going to do next? And so one day I was, I pray a lot. Don't get me wrong, I pray a lot.
Nice.
And that's where I find my strength. And so one day, I kept asking when I'd pray, what should I do now? It's all on my shoulders now. What should I do now? And so one day I walk outside on the front porch. We've got the lawn out there, and it was about, mid-November. Everything's frozen. There's no weeds. There's no, there's just frost on the ground. We hadn't really gotten snow, but there's a little layer of frost on the grass. And so I walked out on the front porch, and I asked God, I said, you know what? Give me a sign. What do I do now? And I just stood there quietly. I glanced over to the left, and there, in the middle of the grass, is one dandelion, just perfectly bloomed, sitting there in the middle of the grass.
Oh.
And I said,
wow.
Oh, that's good.
That is good.
Good sign, So I said, okay. God, I'll write the book, but if you get me published, because I don't know how to do that. So that's when it started. And the original idea for the book was just going to be the small a story about a little girl who had nightmares, and through the guidance of her mother and grandmother, she finds her way to this safe place called the Wishflower Field, where she can, escape her monsters and make wishes. And it was going to be a hardcover children's book with mostly illustrations and a few lines of story. And I sat down to write, and I started seeing this movie play out just like a movie playing out in my head. And so I was just writing freehand in a spiral notebook as fast as I can.
When I was reading it, it seemed like a movie in my head too. So it's interesting you said that.
Yeah, I would, yeah. So it was like watching a movie, that I'm narrating, I'm dictating this, and I'm writing it down, and I would get pieces at a time. And I, over time, I'd beat myself up because I'm just like, oh, God, I should be writing every day. I should be doing this, let's get to a schedule. We got to sit down and write, And it would just come when it came. I'd be driving in the car, and I'd get a quote, or I'd be driving in the car, and the movie start playing again. And so I'd sit down and write, and when you look back on it, it seems, well, when you're in the moment, it seems like such a very long time. When you look back on it, if I totaled up the days that I actually sat down and write, it's probably just a couple months, So and it's funny because after I wrote it, I sat down and read it back, and there's things in there that it's like, I don't remember doing that.
Kind of got lost in the moment.
And I read it back, and there's parts in there where she's in the forest, and she hid in the shell from the monster, and I put that in there originally because sometimes you dream about things that happened the day before or that day, and her sister had been in the yard, and her sister was collecting all these snails. So that's the hiding place I gave her in the dark forest. And then when I read it back, I said, that is so symbolistic of her coming out of her shell finally and facing her fears.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
I wrote for a long time, and then editing took, because finally I had to stop editing it and just leave it alone because you just mess with it so much and go over it and over and over again. And I finally got to the point where I was happy with the story, and then I started submitting to agents because I didn't want to self-publish. I wanted to get in with a big publisher, of course. If you're going to do it, try to, do it big. So that's what I was going to do, and no one would talk. Nobody would listen to me. Nobody even read it. I think I probably got 40 rejection, or more than that, rejection notices in the mail, and each time one came, I was so surprised at myself because I've never been overly self-confident. I've never been somebody, I've always done the practical thing. I've always done the responsible thing, and to get these rejection notices over and over and keep going, I was surprised at myself. I was like, wow, but I just felt so confident about the story and about what I was doing. And it's not just a story to make money. It's not about that. What I really want to do is, after my husband died, I realized I didn't fall apart. I was stronger than I thought I was. And that was because there was something inside me that was driving me forward. And that, the only thing I can, say is that there's a light. You just keep going, and that's why I put that in this story, because I believe everybody has their own light and their own strength. And I wished, after I found this out, I wished that I had known that at a younger age, because there would have been so many things that I wouldn't have been afraid to do. And that is one of the basic reasons why I'm writing these books. I wrote them very simply. It's a very simple story. It's more of a complex story, but it's written very simply to reach a younger age group.
Yeah, I agree.
And
but I mean, it's written for for anybody of all ages, and for anybody of any particular type of education or lack of education, I guess. I mean, in terms of small age children and all the way to PhDs in order to be able to get the symbolisms and stuff like that. It's well written. So go ahead. I'm just jumping in there because I agree with you.
Well, thank you. I'll take it. Take the compliment. But yeah, I wrote it very simply to reach a younger reading level, basically, so it could start around second grade. And but the story itself really does appeal to anyone of any age that suffers with fears. Who needs to realize their own inner strength. And there's certain points that I brought out in the book that I really want to get out there. The fact that there's a lot of spiritual overtones in the book, but I do not want to classify it as a spiritual book or a religious book, because I would really like these ideas to reach people that don't have that in their life and need that. So, like the idea that even when you think you're alone, you never really are. There's always somebody watching. There's always somebody helping. There's always help available. You're never really completely alone. And and that you can be strong all by yourself. You don't need someone holding your hand. You don't need somebody standing beside you. And it's wonderful if you do have those people. It's wonderful if you do have that support system. But there are those that don't. And especially at a young age, if you can realize that you can be strong all by yourself, and you don't have to crumble, and you don't have to turn to drugs, and you don't have to let depression overcome you. I think that would be a wonderful thing to know at a young age.
Yeah, agreed. I think sometimes the youth of today result back into and transfer over to such negativity. There's so much negativity in the world today. It's way too much, and just to see the positive side of it. So while you don't necessarily, I agree with you again, while you don't necessarily need somebody there, be able to do it yourself is great. But if you have a support system or structure, a family and friends around you, teachers or whatever, then definitely use it, because that's what they're there for. Now, the symbolism in your book, it's interesting. You said you don't necessarily want to talk about the spirituality or the religious undertones of it, but it's to me it's kind of strong. I guess just because I kind of like that kind of stuff. But it's so powerful in the book. There's so many different signs that you put in here that just kind of pops out at me. One is if you don't mind talking about it, it's her ability to control her fear, and on how you said for your daughters and for Marie in the book. And again, the title of the book is The Wishflower Field, Marie's Triumph, and this is book 1. But it's about her being able to control her fear, and you teach her to go through, or her mom in the book teaches her to go through what's really called lucid dreaming, is to be able to control your dreams and to be able to stop a monster from chasing after you. And I've told my son this, and I actually practiced this when I was a child, and that's why I thought it was so potent and powerful, because it was something that I had to experience as well as a child. And it was just being able to say, if you're falling or if you are being chased by a monster, then to realize, just stop and control your dream, and the monster will go away, and it will be okay. And you may wake up, or at least I did 1 or 2 times, with a cold sweat or something, like, oh wow, man, that was a strong dream. But I knew it was just a dream. I was able to control it after that. And so whenever you were talking about you gave them a safe place to go to, I thought that was pretty cool. Because if I was told, like, whenever I felt like I was falling in a dream, and I'm not a dream interpretation person at all, none whatsoever, but I was always told, if you're falling, to act like you're Superman and fly, control the fall, and just start flying. And so I would always go up, up, and away. And I would act like I was Superman with the S on my chest and just kind of fly around instead of actually following. And, or I'd act like a bird or an eagle or something like that and just start soaring. And so that was a way for me to be able to control it.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of things in the book like that you're talking about that I've experienced personally. Like, you know, and none of it is exactly what I've experienced, but there's little bits and pieces that form this idea. Like, just for example, I've controlled things in my dreams. You know, I've stood up in my dreams and said, no, I am not going to let this happen. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. How you like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember this one time, so funny, I was living on my own, I was going to college, I was running a business, in my parents' business, and I had, you know, my old car had just completely died. I mean, I ran it into the ground. And then, so I went and I got, I think it was 98, I went and got a brand new red, 1998 Mitsubishi Eclipse, and it was a stick, and I love that car. I was just so happy to have that car. It was just so much fun. So I'm having this dream, and I'm driving, driving my new car, and I'm all happy, and I'm driving down the hill, and, okay, there's a cliff. And I'm like, no, I am not going to drive this car off a cliff. So I just said, all right, we're just going to switch into fly mode. And so I just flew it. I flew the car around the cliff. And I was like, and I woke up in the morning and I was like, yeah, I totally did that.
Yep, Jennifer Bond.
So you can do that. You don't have to be, I remember, and once I did that, I thought back to other dreams where I had done that pretty much all my life. And I thought back to times where I had talked to my grandfather in my dreams who had passed away, and times, and so that there's dreaming is so hard to interpret because dreaming is as individual as every person is individual. I mean, so that's why when people put out these dream interpretation books, it's like, well, okay, that might work for you,
right,
but does it work for him or her, or because they're just dreaming is all you. You create the entire experience, and I do believe that you can connect with past loved ones. I totally believe that because I've done that, and they've told me things that, nobody else would know.
Yeah,
about what's going on right now, so it's always been such an interesting subject for me.
Yeah, whenever you mentioned, like where Marie was fighting her monster, and she would just, say something like stop or, wake up or something like that, her keywords that what she did in order to control her dream. I used to study martial arts since I was a child, and so if a monster was chasing me, just like I was when I was falling, instead of being Superman, I would be like this, Bruce Lee guy. I would turn into like this martial art kid, and I'd be like, nobody can beat me in my martial art dreams. And I would start fighting the monster. Wah! And it would work, right? So
that's awesome. Yeah.
But,
why not?
But for Marie, her fear that she had and the monster in her dream, can you talk a little bit about that and how her monster came about? I don't want to give away too much of the book, but it's so cool.
Well, Marie was not, the contrast between Marie and her sister is significant because her sister is, one of my favorite characters because she's fearless.
Yeah.
She's little and she's fearless and
she's
never positive. Well, Marie is she's a little more sensitive. And so a good example is the tree house. On the tree house, on one side there's a fire pole, and on the other is a spiral slide. And she's never gone down the fire pole because she's afraid that she'll fall, and she does not believe anyone who says that she'll be okay. I mean, she won't even try because the fire pole represents a leap of faith in herself, and the spiral slide is the easy way out. And so Marie, when they're playing in their tree house, her sister will just jump down that fire pole, and Marie will go running after her, and she'll stop. And she'll go, oh, I can't do that. And so she'll go down the spiral slide.
Yeah.
And so in continuing to do this and continuing to not face her fears and believe that, she's incapable of doing that, she is letting this fear grow. And so the monster in her dream is an accumulation of her fears that just keeps getting stronger and bigger and stronger and coming more often. And then she starts to think that it's going to get her in her everyday life. And then she's afraid to go in her room, and she's afraid to look under the bed, and she's afraid to do everything. And now she just can't even sleep. So she had to face her monster, because otherwise he just got stronger. The more she turns away from it, the more power she gives it. And in facing her monster, she takes that power back.
See, and the reason why I thought that was so potent is because I think a lot of people actually do that. They continue to let their fear overcome them to where it grows into a bigger fear, or either a bigger fear of that fear, or they start creating other fears. Like, say, for example, you're afraid of falling, and then you find out you're scared of heights. Well, then all of a sudden you're scared of heights, and then you don't like to be in an elevator. Well, you don't like to be in an elevator because it goes up to the 22nd floor, but it's not because the elevator is at the 22nd floor. It's because it's a small confined space, and now you just created a fear of claustrophobia. And I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but they keep adding and adding and adding to our, next thing you know, somebody has got like all these massive fears because they let one particular fear overcome them, and they couldn't face it. And
exactly. And I wouldn't have written about that if it's not something that I've experienced myself and learned that once you just get rid of that one thing, you can do basically anything. I mean, possibilities and opportunities are endless. It's how we restrict ourselves, and we tell ourselves, and we program ourselves, and we say, hey, I can't do that because I'm afraid. Well, then how come they can do that, and they can do that, and they can do that, and they didn't die, and they didn't fall down, and they didn't, you have hands, you can grab onto that pole too.
Yeah.
You're limiting yourself, and by facing those fears. So I think it's a wonderful thing to learn at a young age. As Marie learns to face her fears, and not create any more monsters. Because when she's in the Wishflower field, and she asks her guide, does this mean, this means I won't have bad dreams anymore now that I've defeated my monster? And he says, well, of course you will. She gets all mad, what, after all that? And I love that he said, you will always have fears. There will always be monsters. But now you have the tools to keep them away. So as long as you face your fears when they come, deal with stuff when it happens, you're not going to create a bigger problem. You're not going to create a bigger fear, and that's going to grow and branch off into different things. So
yeah, and I agree. It's once, and most of the time, people they let that fear overcome them, but it's not really. It's more the fear of the fear than the fear itself. If that makes any sense. Most of the time they're so scared about what's going to happen versus just facing it. And what normally does happen, just like you said, nobody's going to throw rotten tomatoes at you, or, you're not going to, you can grab a hold of the pole or whatever else, and all you're going to do is slide down, but it's the fear of sliding or something else. And so it's the fear of the fear. It's what's causing it to be so bad. And it's not actually the action itself. So that's why I said that particular part to where she overcomes them, it's so huge. There's another part in here as well in the book, and it's about having somebody, and we're talking about this a little bit earlier in terms of having somebody around you at all times. And it's about, I kind of reference it to like spirit guides, because in her dream in the Wishflower field, she meets somebody, and this person is there to guide her and assist her throughout her dreams and helping her overcome things. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to give away too much, so let's talk very generic about that.
Okay.
That goes back to me saying that, in my life I've experienced, when you lose somebody, somebody dies or something, I've experienced talking to them, or, they give me messages in my dreams, and I've talked to people, so many people, about this. And everyone's told me, yeah, I had a dream about Grandma, or I had a dream about Aunt Belle, or whatever.
Exactly. Loved ones that have passed on.
It happens so often that I really believe that we're never alone, because nobody really ever dies. And, it's a risk saying that, but, I really don't care. That's what I believe. And I totally believe that, people live on, and even though you feel that they're gone and that you can't ever talk to them again, and, that now you're alone, and no, you're not, because you know, there's just so many ways that they'll show you that they're still around. They're still watching, you know?
Right.
And that's what's important about what happens in the book. Marie makes a wish in the beginning of the book.
Yes.
On a wishflower while she's awake.
I got goosebumps now just thinking about it. It's incredible.
that the monsters in her dream will go away. Of all things for a child to wish for. You know, she wished for that. And you find out later on that even when she stood there alone in the yard making a wish, feeling helpless, somebody was listening. And she was never really alone. And that's, I think, why most children, most people don't like to be alone. And when they feel like they are, that's when bad things happen. That coupled with fear, that's when abusive behaviors start. And that's, you know, and if we can get them at a young age to know that, hey, you know, bad things happen, but you can get through this. You can keep moving forward, and you can get through this, and you can be happy again. And that's one of my favorite quotes in the book was from the wise one. The wise one is the grandmother. And
aren't they always the wise ones? Aren't they the best?
They are the best. And, you know, the inspiration for the wise one is bits and pieces of older female influences in my life. You know, my mother and my favorite author. I read a lot of her books just because they're totally cool. Sylvia Brown. She's she's helped so many. And but this whole wise one figure, you know, she just like always knows what to say, always has the answers, you know. So she tells Marie, you know, you'll never know the strength that lies within you until you're faced with the opportunity to be strong. And that is so true, because if you sat in your home your whole life and you never took a risk and you never faced your fears, you know, you wouldn't know very much about yourself at all.
I agree.
So.
Well, one of my favorite quotes in here, and I actually put it on my Facebook page as a permanent marking there, is, when you feel like you are surrounded by darkness, be a beacon of light. And to me, that was just so strong. Because even, you know, the spirit guides and the beacon of light and stuff like that, it reminds me of the Footprints in the Sand poem, you know, where you think that you're walking alone, you're really not. Or whenever you think you're down and out, you could be the stronger person to help others out. And she became a beacon of light to a friend of hers in the story. And that kept resonating in my mind over and over and over again. I was like, wow, she's such a beacon now. She's such a beacon. And she wound up meeting somebody in a wishflower field, which I thought was so important because, do you mind if I mention her name?
Sure.
So she wound up meeting this person in the wishflower field in her dreams, Emma Long. And then she turns around and finds out that she sees her in her real life class at school. And then she goes to help Emma conquer her fears. And so she becomes the beacon of light to somebody else. And I thought that was very, very powerful. Can you talk about that?
Well, I don't want to give too much away,
exactly.
That's where we lead into book 2.
Ah.
Book 2 is about Emma and her fears and her. But the thing is that, you know, book 1 focuses on fear itself and conquering, you know, your inner fears and your inner struggles and being strong all on your own. Book 2 is about outside negative influences that bring you down and standing up to those, which is a little bit harder. And so, and, you know, each book has a basic message like that. So, you know, Marie and Emma, you know, I am still learning, actually, about Marie and Emma's relationship, because I put that in there originally because I just thought it was totally cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Because, you know, have you ever had a dream that was so real, like when you're in school or something, and you go to school the next day, and that like there was a person there, and they're there at school, and you just feel uncomfortable now, you know, like, I wonder, you know, were they really in that dream? It was that concept.
Yeah, haven't I met you somewhere before or something? Yeah.
Her meeting a friend, but then I saw so much more in developing with that relationship, so I had that. But, you know, Marie, I don't want to give too much away about it, but it's really an interesting relationship and happening in the book. And, you know, they realize that they shared the same dream, and they don't know how that happened, but they vow to go back, to figure out how they can go back and together to the Wishflower Field. And so Emma had been going there for a while, and for different reasons than Marie. So the Wishflower Field can be many different things to many different people. It just depends on what they need. It's a place of For one, it can be a safe haven. For another, it can be a place for answers. And Marie and Emma's relationship is really interesting, and that's one of the twists in there. That you get to the place where Marie's in the Wishflower field in the book, and people have told me, "Oh, I read up to that point, and it's really good." And I'm like, "Well, don't stop there, because it gets really good after that."
Well, like I was mentioning earlier, with there's certain key points that I kind of picked up, and I was wondering if they were for the story, or they just happen to be a coincidence, such as lucid dreaming or spirit guides, or even the fact that how she met Emma in her dream and how they can return back to that. Have you ever heard of astral traveling? And that's the ability for the body to be able to leave a place and go meet with other people who are astral traveling in the astral realm, and then return back to their bodies, and then them actually know them. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was that an underlying tone for that dream, for them to be able to travel back and forth? Or was it just me thinking oddly like that I normally do?
This basically their connection and the way they go back to the Wishflower field. It's all done like on a soul level, on a subconscious level, and the idea that you can basically do whatever you want, and possibilities are endless on that level. So whether they're astrally traveling or I really haven't thought about it all that much. It's still developing to me. So it's funny because it's like I have the basic story mapped out. I know what's going to happen throughout the entire series, but there's things like that come up and go, that's what they're doing, and
yeah.
So I don't want to give too much away on that, but
I relate stuff to so many odd things
and it's
at
funny
times.
Because this book, it's funny when people talk about it, because it'll mean different things to different people.
Exactly.
They'll pick up on different things.
Exactly.
And
that's why it's such a good book.
Like when you think,
that's what it's supposed to do.
When you think about the Wishflower field, where are they really going? That's answered differently by a lot of people. And when I had written the book and I was trying to get it published, I took it down to the elementary school and I started reading it to the kids down there. And I gave them anonymous forms to fill out. Did you like the book? Because I wanted honest answers. And so, I come home with this big, vanilla envelope full with all these answers. I'm like, okay, do I really want to read this? Yes, I do. So I read, mostly everybody liked it.
Cool.
Even the boys. It appeals to both boys and girls, except for one boy who wanted there to be monsters eating people and stuff.
That's pretty brave. Most authors don't do market sampling like that. So that's pretty brave that you did that. You faced your fear. That's pretty good.
Well, I wanted to know. I wanted to hear what they had to say, and plus I was getting more ideas for things. And I even went down last year to work at the school. And the basic idea with that was to observe behaviors for book 2. And I really got a lot of, just from being there. I learned a lot. Well, when I had them fill out these forms, I was so surprised at the answers, because one of the questions was, what would you wish for in the Wishflower field? And you think they'd have flying ponies and all kinds of things, but what they really wanted, a lot of them said, I wish my grandpa was still here. And one of them said, I wish people paid more attention to me.
Oh.
Or I wish people listened to me. And it really gave them an opportunity to open up.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
You're going to make me cry on radio. Don't do that.
Don't cry,
I'll get all emotional about it.
I'll cry. No, but it's funny because it means something. It's interpreted in so many different ways. It depends on who's reading it and what they need. So that's what I'm discovering now, is that it's really interesting.
The imagery in the book is also very potent, and I can actually see this. You talked about it being a series of books. This is book 1. I could actually see this going into a movie, because the pictures that was laid out, and earlier you talked about, whether you're going to draw a bunch of pictures or, drawings or something like that, but you put it all into words. And, from what I read, I could see all these different places. And that's what I love about a book. For me, is the visual aspect of it. I'm a very, very visual person. I have to see it in my mind's eye. Otherwise I just don't connect with it. And I could literally see, Marie and her little sister playing. I can really see them in the fields, or in the backyard, mom gardening, and, her looking in the closets and under her bed, and then, you know, facing her demons through the dark forest, and all, not her demons, but her monsters and her fears in the dark forest. All that stuff was very, very vivid to me. And so when I'm looking at it, and that's why I said earlier, I was thinking a movie. And
it's so funny that you said that, because in the beginning, when this all started, when I started, you know, writing the book and everything, you know, I'm like, okay, here's the master plan, okay? I want to see it someday, you know, after everyone's had time to read it. I went to the movies, okay, and there was this, went to the movies with the kids when I was writing the book, and I saw this Harry Potter, I can't remember which movie it was for Harry Potter, but they had just put up this big stand-up poster, a 3-sided thing, and I just went and stood next to it, and I looked at it, and you know, not like I'm hearing voices or anything, don't get me wrong, but you know how you're in your own voice, in your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear stuff, you know.
It's only when you start arguing with yourself is the problem that comes in.
Yeah, I heard, someday yours will be there. That's what I heard, and I was like, whatever, let's go watch the movie now. But you know, that's really what I want, too, because for me, it's another way to get it to reach more people. Yeah. You know, because I just really think, you know, they're ideas that are basic, but they're very helpful, you know, and I just really believe that everything you read, everything you watch, everything you hear, you know, you hang on to in some way. You hang on to bits and pieces of that. And my hope is that the readers will hang on to the good messages in this book, and then now or later on in life, when they are in a difficult situation, they'll pop up and they'll say, you know what, I don't have to fall apart, or you know what, I don't have to be afraid anymore. You know, and that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. It's just a way to reach more people. And again, like I said, I could easily see this on the big screen, because from young people to older people to PhDs to people with just high school degrees, it doesn't really matter. It's the way the book reaches out to you and the whole storyline about it. And the fact that you kind of left me hanging at the end with her friend Emma, and you know, book 2 coming out, all the way up through your whole series. I'm excited about it. Have you already started working on the second book? What are some of your future projects and shows?
Yeah, I've been working on the second book. It's not completely written yet. It just, you know, but that was the hardest part. Was I find that book 2 is harder now because, you know, I've written a series. So writing the end of it was harder because I needed to give some closure, but then lead in to the next one. So that's what I came up with. And then in writing book 2, it's taking longer because I actually have to think about it. It's like, okay, now this happened back here, and it's happening there, corresponds with that, you know, so it's, but still, I just let it flow still, and I'm surprised sometimes it's like, oh, that's right, you know, because that happens over there.
Right. So do you think you'll relate book 2 to more real-life stories?
What do you mean by real life?
Well,
of mine?
Well, either yours or just anybody's in general, because this touches home with so many, or touched home with me so much, and I'm assuming that it touches home with so many other people as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You know, things that actually goes on.
Will be longer and more involved, and it will be just as heartwarming because, you know, that's what I'm pulling from, is experience of mine, experience of people around me, you know, and that's what we all pull from. Yeah. So, of course, yeah, there will be more of that in there.
See, because I'm the kind of person that always tries to find the moral of the story, even when my son's watching SpongeBob, you know, and I sit there and I ruin it for him because I tell my son, I said, you know, the great thing about SpongeBob is no matter what, he has a very positive day. He gets up and he goes to work and he works as best as he possibly can, and he's happy and he's cheerful, and he doesn't let, you know, SpongeBob, and I hope the SpongeBob people don't sue me about this, but, you know, that he doesn't let Squidward get him down, and Krabby Patty, I mean, you know, Mr. Krabs is all crabby and stuff like that. I said, but no matter what, he keeps a very positive attitude. And my son will go, Dad, it's just a cartoon. I'm like, no, it's so much more. It is so much more. And so when I read this book.
I'll do the same thing with the kids. I love SpongeBob. Cracks me up. But I'll do the same thing, you know, with the kids. They're just tired of it because you know, they'll watch something. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about the meaning, whatever. They just want to stare at the screen. I'll say, you know what this means, don't you?
Yeah.
And they're like, ugh.
I do that.
Here's life lesson for the day. You know, that's one thing that I was, and you know, not to put anybody else down in any way, shape, or form, but that's what I found so frustrating as a mother of children who are reading now, is that I went when I was pretty much when I decided to write. Another reason why I decided to write is because I went into the local bookstore, and they had this big children's section, and I went over, and there was a bench in between two aisles that had all the children's series in it, and I just sat there, and I looked at them, and I was like, nope, that'll give them nightmares. Nope, that'll give them nightmares. Nope, somebody coming to kill them in that one. No, it's like, what? Where's the positive stories? There's enough negativity and tragedy in this world. Why are we filling their minds with more? Give them something good to take with them. Give them something to combat all of that.
Exactly.
It's just it was frustrating for me, and I said, you know what? Fine, I will then. Because I would love to see a change in the way people write for children, because, they are what we put into them. Let's put some good stuff in there.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, as people get so frustrated with the teenagers and things, that end up turning to drugs, or they end up turning to crime, or getting completely depressed, and it's like, well, what have we done for these people to lift them up? What building blocks have we put in there to help them fight off all this tragedy and all this stuff, to help them handle it? I had great parents. I mean, I was just blessed. I really, really had a good example. They have don't get me wrong, I haven't had a perfect life. I went through alcoholism with my father when I was a child, a teenager. They had a divorce. I've gone through divorce, and just lots of stuff. And I've lost my husband, but
my father died when I was 7.
I was given a basic board to spring off of, a basic set of values, and my mom's always been, and my dad have always been, and many people in my life have been that. They're the kind that float in and they'll say something, like, that's good advice, or something like that, and that'll stick with you. And later on, when you're, like, really down, there's a voice in your head,
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, I have a lot of faith, and that's basically carried me through everything.
Well, that's nice. So how can, we got a new book coming out. You're already working on the next one. You've got this one coming out, and it's The Wishflower Field, Marie's Triumph, and everybody can get this on, Amazon and a lot of the other public places. In terms of, is it at Book to Million yet? I know it's on Amazon. Where are some of the other places people can get it?
It's officially released on December 15th. You can order it now through Amazon. You can order it through Mayhaven Publishing. You can call them, or go to the website. There's information there on how to order it. Soon it'll be on Barnes & Noble. Mayhaven is a smaller publisher. They sell to retailers and bookstores and all that. So it will be in bookstores. It will be out there. Process is just starting. You can like my page on Facebook for Jennifer Fallaw, Fallaw, and all the order information is there, and I'll be keeping everybody updated on the process. And that's pretty much it. It's really exciting.
Okay, so we got Facebook, we got Twitter, we got Amazon, other great places. Oh, I also wanted to let you know, you remind me of another person. You said you were turned down by 40-plus publishers. There's a really great actress that touched millions and millions of people's lives, and it was because she never took defeat. And it was Lucille Ball. She actually got turned down by 40 different acting agencies that said that she couldn't act. And she kept going and kept going and kept going. And so, you kept going too. And I really appreciate the fact that you did. And your publishing house picked up the book, and now it's out. And I think it's going to be one of those must-reads for, kindergarten classes, all the way up through English Lit or whatever else, and just for parents to buy. And since it's coming out for December 15th, I think it's going to be a great Christmas gift if anybody wants to go out and purchase it right away, which I'm highly encouraging people to do.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. That's very important, is that you just can't give up. Just never can, because then you're giving up on yourself. I mean, if you feel strongly enough about something, don't give up on it, I mean, I knew I got all those 40 rejection notices, and that was just from the agents, okay? I'm not talking publishers. That was a whole other wave. But I knew that no one had read it. And so that was what kept me going. I was like, okay, well, I know that you aren't looking for a children's book right now, or I'm not falling into your category right now, or you're too busy right now, but you haven't read it. And Doris Winslow at Mayhaven Publishing read it. And she contacted me and told me how much she loved it and how she identified with the story. and she's just a wonderful person. And so now we're doing this together.
Nice. So any last final thoughts you'd like to tell all our listeners out there in terms of your book, in terms of just general life? You're such an inspiring person, and I really appreciate you writing it.
Well, thank you so much. I just want everybody to just never give up. Never give up. Always believe in yourself and keep moving forward.
Awesome. And face your fears.
I'm sorry?
I said, and face your fears.
And face those fears.
Be that beacon of light.
Be a beacon of light in a dark world. And the world won't be very dark anymore. Enough people do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on our show today. It's been a true honor and pleasure to have you on. You're a great person. You're a great writer, and I know everybody's going to love this book, so I encourage everybody to go out and get it. I hope you have a very beautiful Christmas and the other holidays that are coming up and around, and I'll still look forward to book 2. You're going to have to come back on our show whenever book 2 is getting ready to get out, and let everybody enjoy it.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And anytime you want to have me on the show, I'll come back.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Our musical guest tonight is Tallulah Rendall with her song, Wake Up.
Solitude, and I lie in its grace. As the seconds come, warms my eyes, I wander to the blanket skies. Can you mind hidden to remain? Can you mind hidden to remain? Where the sun rises on apart, I only look back to the start to see our simple star. And underneath this rosy hue below a sky of subtle blue, I could quietly bow to remain. I quietly bow to remain. Where the sun rises on my window, where the sun's smile is on my pillow, where the sun cracks through the curtain and because the sun's on my window, and there's a sun smile lying on my pillow. Oh, there's a sunrise on my window, and there's a sun smile lying on my pillow. As the sun cracks through the curtain, oh, as the sun
And now, a word from our sponsors.
At Taylor Gifts, we do customized monogramming and embroidery. We can monogram anything from a simple one name on a bib for a baby to a customized logo on a company shirt. We can make gifts for your wedding entourage and gifts for your friends. Label your children's items for school and put names on jerseys for sports. If you have items of your own you want them monogrammed and embroidered, we can do that. Tailor Gifts are sewn with high-quality thread on a professional embroidery machine. So go to the website www.tailorgifts.net, call 251-391-4354, email sales@tailorgifts.net, visit us at ETSY, and Facebook us. We are ready for your orders.
Welcome to WROM, Realms of Music Radio and Social Network. We support independent artists and talk shows, hosting a large discussion forum and an artist gallery. We also have a large social network combining the best of Facebook and MySpace into one. So make sure you submit your music to us and create a profile to promote yourself today. That's realmsofmusic.com, the best of music radio.
The Ghost Tales Television Network, GTN. GTN is designed to give the paranormal TV and filmmaking community the opportunity to showcase their talents and creations. If you believe you have what it takes to create your very own TV show and or short film and you would like the opportunity to showcase your creations, you may contact us at ghosttales.tv@gmail.com or call 901-377-7166 for more details. Make sure you visit ghosttalestv.com. GTN, America's Paranormal Superstation.
Thank you for listening to the show. I am your host, Bryan Lee Whatley. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I look forward to seeing you next time when another story begins. Until then, love and light.